afternoon. On behalf of the International Pharmaceutical Federation, FIP, and Global Pharmaceutical Observatory, GPO, I extend my warm welcome to everyone, to those who joined live and to those who will be watching this later. I also like to warmly welcome our guests today, whom I will shortly introduce. We are pleased to be delivering the regional digital event as part of FIP GPO program entitled "How Can Digital Health Support National Pharmaceutical Care Delivery?" A regional and global assessment of priorities and challenges regionally and globally. This is a series of 6 regional events, and this is the first regional event. Next. Please, let me introduce myself, Prosper Yak, President of the African Pharmaceutical Forum of FIP. I am also pleased to introduce my colleague, Anyango Esther, or Esther Anyango, who will be moderating this event with me. Esther is the 5th member of FIP Young Pharmacists Group, Early Career Regional Supporter of Africa. Next. Before we move on the session, let me share some announcements. This webinar is being recorded and live streamed via YouTube. The recording will be available on our site, event.fip.org. You may ask questions using the question box provided. Our speakers will make sure the address of to address your question. You are welcome to provide feedback to webinars@fip.org. And if you are not already a member of FIP, I welcome you to register using our webpage. You will be receiving a certificate of attendance from FIP after event. Next. We would like to thank Pfizer and Partner for Data for supporting this event through unrestricted funds. I will hand over now to Esther to give you an introduction about the program. Esther, you have the floor.
Thank you, Prosper. I think you're handing over to Christopher, actually.
Okay. I would like first to start by welcoming Chris Jones, FIP lead for data and intelligence. Chris will briefly present a summary of FIP's GPO. Chris, over to you.
Thank you so much, Prosper, and hello, everyone. The FIP Global Pharmaceutical Observatory is the engine room of global pharmaceutical data collection. The FIP GPO will measure and monitor progress towards the FIP development goals. One of the FIP development goals is Development Goal 20, which is digital health, which is why we are all here today. The FIP Global Pharmaceutical Observatory's mission centers around data, intelligence, advocacy, and reporting. We know the importance of data and for data to provide us with evidence which demonstrates impact. So our first task is to collate valid global data on workforce, education, practice, and pharmaceutical science. We must undertake comprehensive analysis of collated data to provide accessible, high-quality intelligence. And this must be communicated innovatively to promote our member organizations' impact on health. The communication of such data will often be via the FIP Atlas, which is our visualization platform for displaying our data and intelligence across the globe. And you can see this on the GPO website. Finally, we will provide evidence-based strategic information, reports, and guidance on the application of pharmaceutical science, policies, practices, and services. The work streams of the Global Pharmaceutical Observatory are numerous. The first one is the Multinational Needs Assessment Program, which this event is part of. And in this program, we will continue to take a tried and tested needs-based approach to addressing data and development goal challenges through the development of an inclusive multinational needs assessment program. The FIP GPO Atlas, which I've mentioned, is a platform for showcasing our members' needs and priorities, supported by data from the GPO. So to give you an example, where we have data intelligence about digital health, we will display this using our visualization platform, which is the Atlas. And this allows FIP to identify opportunities for developing pharmacy with and for and through our member organizations. The GPO database is the repository for FIP's pharmacy and pharmaceutical science data. It contains data that informs the indicators that are used to track progress against the FIP development goals, including Development Goal 20, digital health. The FIP development goals provide the framework for needs assessments and prioritization for member organizations to undertake relevant to their national situation. In turn, the priorities can provide each organization with the foundations for mapping the progress and transformations for their workforce, practice, and pharmaceutical science. Indicators will be a way to measure and monitor progress and transformations for workforce, practice, and pharmaceutical science against development goals via the data we collect in the observatory. We also have a Data and Intelligence Commission, which provides strategic advice on FIP on advocacy and delivery of the GPO project. And this very much focuses on achievement of the vision and strategic objectives through member engagement. Next slide, please. So if you'd like to know more about the Global Pharmaceutical Observatory, as I mentioned, please do visit our website and the address is there, or you can scan the QR code. Thank you so much, and I'll hand you back to our moderators.
Thank you so much, Chris. So I'd like to take this opportunity to give us a quick introduction to the FIP GPO program. So we're all aware that substandard and falsified medicines, along with a lack of adherence to medication regimens, poses a really big threat to public health worldwide. And it's possible to deliver pharmaceutical care services that address these challenges using digital healthcare techniques and approaches. Now, globally, digital health faces many challenges and many concerns, despite its potential to impact pharmaceutical care. So now FIP and the Global Pharmaceutical Observatory has launched this new needs assessment program entitled "How Can Digital Health Support National Pharmaceutical Care Delivery?" And it's a regional and global assessment of priorities and challenges, focusing on medication adherence and fighting substandard and falsified medicines. Now, this regional and global needs assessment program will include a series of 6 regional events, culminating in a private global roundtable and a summary report. Today's regional event aims really to facilitate a discussion between leadership organizations, leadership pharmaceutical bodies rather, which will help us to assess the ongoing initiatives. It will also help us to assess the drivers and also help us to find out what challenges there are that pharmaceutical leadership bodies face and nations face in integrating digital health into pharmaceutical patient care. The emphasis will be on two themes, medicine adherence and fighting substandard and falsified medicines. I will now hand over to Prosper to walk us through the event outline.
By setting the stage and producing the program. And I will now move on to our discussion with national leaders from the region. Our webinar will be divided in two different themes, lasting as a total of 30 minutes each. We will focus on integration of digital health into pharmaceutical healthcare services to support medication adherence as our first theme. The second theme is digital health and its use against substandard and falsified drugs. A short activity will be planned between each of the themes to engage those of you who are attending with us today. We will start with the first term of our regional event, digital health to support patient adherence. Next slide. I would like to welcome our panelists. The first, are you all there? The first panelist is Kwabena Ashanti Ofe, Vice President of Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. The second one is Redouane Selouani from Algiers. And Brent Singh Hyde, hospital pharmacist, Young Pharmacist Group, Project Coordinator, Pharmaceutical Society of South Africa. The first, we are going to talk about ongoing initiative. Does your country organization provide any digital health application or intervention that facilitates medication adherence as part of the pharmaceutical care services? Can you provide an example?
First, I assume that I go first.
Yes. Yes, Kwabena, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And good morning to everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. And it's a pleasure to be here. And digital health is quite a topic that I'm quite passionate about. So I'm happy to be on this panel. So to the question, yes, in Ghana, there are a lot of applications that a lot of pharmacies, and I'm talking about community pharmacies, have that they use to engage their clients. So these applications help them to be able to monitor the medications that their clients are on, and then also send them reminders if they have to take their medications and all that. But these are on an individual basis. Then there are also non-pharmacies, but companies that have apps that they've developed and linked to certain pharmacies. So patients can reach out to these apps and request for some medication, and then the app company will find the medication and then deliver it to them. And these became more enhanced, especially during the COVID period. But then what we also realized was that these applications were also largely unregulated. So they kind of existed outside of the regulatory ambit of the Pharmacy Council, which is the regulator of the pharmacy profession in Ghana. So what is exciting now, which I'm happy about to share, is that under the leadership of His Excellency, the Vice President of Ghana, the Pharmacy Council of Ghana, together with the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, have come up with what we call a national electronic pharmacy platform, which is backed by law. And so this electronic pharmacy platform is like a regulator of the digital space, where registered pharmacies can be on the platform, and then also these digital apps also will also be on the platform. But the difference now is that these service providers are registered by the Pharmacy Council and guarantee that the service that they are providing is genuine and the medicines they are providing are genuine. What is more is that this platform also provides those additional services, ensures that prescribers are able to monitor their clients through this app, ensures that pharmacies are able to also monitor their clients through this app. But it's a national platform in nature, and it operates more like the Uber system. So if you have a prescription, a prescriber can upload a prescription, or a client can upload a prescription, and then the pharmacy within a certain range close to the client will respond, call the client on video and have an interaction with the client, and then provide the medicines that the client should either the client will pick up or to deliver to the person. And then also all the necessary adherence principles like I talked about earlier on are also available. So this is how we are operating digital health at the moment. And like I said, there's a policy that has been developed on this and has been launched by His Excellency the Vice President already. And then in the 2 months time, the application itself will be launched now. It's on a pilot basis, and then will also take effect. So this is what we are doing now. I wanted to share with the team. Thank you.
Well, from the Algerian perspective, and as of now, official digital health like application or digital program coming from like official from the government, we don't have. However, some pharmacists already established different systems on their own to improve the services they provide to their patients. For example, many adopted for the customized short message service, where they send an automated message to patients to pick up medications or order refund mainly for chronic diseases. Now back to patients. So some are using different apps that they download on their phones to easy tracking their medication intakes, but it's not yet a thing here in Algeria.
South Africa, thank you, Redwan. So South Africa.
I think our situation is very similar to Algeria, where we don't have a national application where everything is collated together, but we do have various retail pharmacies that have their own apps where you can upload your script, have it fulfilled and delivered. And then we also have one of our bigger medical aid insurance, Discovery Health, where they have chatbots where you can submit your symptoms, it's evaluated, and if the bot deems it necessary for you to need to go to a doctor, it can set up a virtual appointment, and that way you can also have your medication delivered, and which will go on the system so we know which date you received it. So when your repeats are ready, it can also be arranged to be delivered to you via various pharmacies. Yeah, I think that's the closest South Africa has got into looking at patient adherence through digital health systems. And we have new digital health systems within our hospitals to assist us with getting patient records electronically throughout one of our main private hospital groups. So that allows us to be able to see from any hospital a full medical history of our patients.
Thank you, Brent. I want to mention that all your biography are in the chat box, all the three. But I will go to the second question. What are the national barriers to integrate and mobilize digital health interventions and approaches in pharmaceutical care services to support medication adherence?
I can go first if you want. From the Algerian perspective, I would say the main barrier is the lack of strategy for digital health. as well as a conducive environment where we can create, scale up, and maintain processes that will facilitate collaboration towards implementing such strategies. Add to that the fact that currently there is no real infrastructure that is suitable for the establishment and the adoption of different digital health interventions and approaches in pharmaceutical care services. On another note, there are other major barriers in terms of the absence of legal framework that regulates data protection and ensure patients' privacy. Another barrier that crosses my mind as well is the literacy level of the target population, mainly those with the chronic disease about 50 years old, and those tend to be less familiar with the digital world and find it hard to navigate it through it smoothly. So this issue would also extend to many healthcare providers that may resist at first to the idea if not presented in a way that that is efficient and easy to use.
Thank you, Redwan. About Ghana, you told that there is already a platform.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that? And what are what do you see are the barriers, national barriers to integrate and mobilize digital health interventions and approaches in pharmaceutical healthcare as for LGS? But I mean, you're doing more now.
Right. So I'll take it from the last point of Udwani. I think the acceptance, or let me say the collaboration from other healthcare service providers is very important to this process. So from prescribers to other people who provide healthcare service. So for example, one thing that we thought was very key in this whole process was integration into the national health insurance system, so that people who engage through this platform, who are also on either a private health insurance or even the national health insurance, would also still be able to have an interaction that allows them to get their medicines still reimbursed through the platform. So the collaboration from these service providers was also very key. We also wanted to enable hospitals or prescribers to be able to enter the system and then prescribe something for a client, and then that prescription will go to a specific pharmacy that the client will be able to the client will share with the prescriber. And so getting the medical profession also on board was also very important to make sure that we get clients have full access or benefits for the entire service. So I think that I'll highlight that as an important part. But then last and I think what is most important is a proper regulatory framework to govern the whole digital service space. Otherwise, because pharmacy is a highly regulated practice and profession. And so if we don't regulate the digital aspect of it, then we will create room for either substandard practice or substandard medicines to also come into the system through the digital system. So a well thought through regulatory framework for the digital space is extremely important to ensure that we can guarantee safety for our clients. And that can only be provided at the national level or by government or by the regulator.
Thank you, Kwabena. What about South Africa, Brent?
Thank you, Prosper. I think I echo what the other two panelists have said, where we also had the challenge with getting acceptance to the digitalization process from our prescriber, from the prescription level, and from the prescribers, which can cause higher risk. And then another one being access to technology, actually having the skill sets and personnel to design and implement digital health interventions. And then pharmacists, where we have seen, because of the change in law, moving from a paper system to a paperless system and everything going digital, not all pharmacists have come to the understanding, even though our e-scripting processes have been approved by our pharmacy council, it can hinder the patient's view on our service that we give. Another would be the cost of these digital solutions and the reluctance of our funders, like our medical aids, to cover them without very specific criteria being met. For example, the Freestyle Libre continuous glucose monitoring device that can be used to continuously track glucose levels and then suggest to patients how much insulin needs to be administered at what point. They have 2 different kinds, and there's very specific criteria: age, weight, disease burden, and other factors that they take into consideration, and they will only pay for so many a month, which leads to the patient needing to buy additional patches afterwards, which makes them reluctant to go that route. So that would be funding and the cost of these digital solutions for the patients would be another big barrier and challenge for us.
Thank you very much. The third question to all of you, but you have already responded to a part of it. What are the enablers and drivers to integrate and mobilize digital health intervention and approaches in pharmaceutical healthcare, pharmaceutical care services to support medication adherence? What are the enablers and the drivers? We'll begin by you, Brent.
I would say the biggest driver for us would be using digital solutions to increase adherence would definitely decrease our disease burden, especially with regard to our high rate of TB and HIV patients, which would obviously decrease our MDR and XDR burden on the country and all the medications, and obviously the antimicrobacterial drugs that we are obviously running out of and getting great resistance to. And then also it will allow us to have at least remote access to patient records throughout the country. We would be able to, a patient could be traveling and be able to see what medication they're on to make sure that they continue with their chronic medication no matter where they are.
Thank you. Redwan.
Yes, Prosper. I think investing in medication adherence improves health outcomes and health system efficiency, mainly adherence to medicines for diabetes and hypertension, integrations of digital health interventions and approaches in pharmaceutical care services to support medication adherence. In general, so we can leverage on the experience and enable patients to personalize care strategies to fit with their unique needs and life circumstances. So what might drive its indication would be, for me, number one, promotion of global collaboration and advancing the transfer of knowledge on digital health. Like now we have in this panel, the Ghanaian experience. So this is that can be like best practice that can be shared with the rest of the country that we can use and capitalize on it. So number two is establish mechanisms for creating and strengthening national digital health strategies and implementing key collaborations on the agreed up and appropriate use of digital technologies to achieve national health and well-being goals. And last and not least, ensuring that institutions, decision makers, policymakers, and personnel involved in the provision of healthcare services and all end user communities and beneficiaries populations are empowered and have a decent background on digital health, and we can go beyond that and ensure that they are adequately engaged in the design of the digital health strategies.
Merci beaucoup, Redwan. The last one, my brother from Ghana.
Yeah, thank you.
About the drivers and the.
So thank you, and I agree with my other panelists, and I don't want to belabor the point. Just to add on that, we found in our process that political support was very important to the process if you are thinking about something national, and the role of His Excellency the Vice President of our country in driving this was key to getting us the kind of progress that we have made so far. I talked earlier on about taking on from Duane's point about getting other healthcare service providers to come on board. One way we were able to overcome that was a meeting that was convened by the Vice President in his office with the heads of all these relevant institutions. And then we then made a presentation of what the electronic platform was going to be and what was supposed to achieve. And in that meeting, we had an immediate buy-in from all these stakeholders And the vice president further directed that we have one-on-one meetings with all these for their inputs to be included, which I think, provided some sort of a shortcut to the process of advocacy to get all of them to buy into this. So I think that one of the things that countries can do is to advocate to their leaders to get the buy-in from this, and then help be behind them as they drive this process forward. And I think that is important for this. And then the second thing is about public awareness and communication. Making people aware of this process, why there's a need for it, and getting a lot more acceptance of it. And lastly, I think that whatever application that we use for this, it should be as simple as possible, 1 step, 2 step, and then we'll get what we are doing. And I think it makes it easier for us to penetrate more and get more people to be able to use this. So those will be the enablers that I can talk about for now.
Thank you, Kwabena. Thank you very much. I want each of you to say a word. We are already at the end of our discussion. What, in 1 or 2 words, how do you see the future?
Well, is that 1 or 2 words? I think the future is innovation. Let me put it that way.
Thank you very much. Ridwan?
That's a very difficult question, I think with COVID we learned a lot, and digitalization. I believe this will be the future for the pharmaceutical care.
Okay, thank you, Brent. From your own perspective, from what point of view, how do you see it? Are we on the good way?
I think the future for healthcare, pharmaceutical care, it needs to be easy. It needs to be looking towards the future, and the way that the world is going is obviously digital. So I would say digital convenience. You've got to not only have these systems in place, but also have them easily accessible, convenient, and easy to use for all those that you intend to use it. You can't really target a specific group, so it needs to be convenient for all, and digital is definitely the way that we're going.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution, your dedication also for FIP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hand over the floor now to Esther.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prosper. And thank you all the panelists for those insightful and very valuable inputs. I'd like to invite all the attendees to join us in this engagement activity. As previously mentioned by Prosper, we would really like to hear from everybody who's watching us today. And we have a very small poll engagement activity. And the question that we would like you people to respond to is that, in your opinion, what is the main challenge to implementing digital health in pharmaceutical care services? I'll say that again. In your opinion, what is the main challenge to implementing digital health in pharmaceutical care services? So you see there are various options, but I'd like you to really just pick the 3 major challenges you think that are there. So there's a lack. Do you think it's a lack of regulatory models, policies, and strategies? Do you think that there are economical and financial concerns, which means that, do you think that the cost of digital health implementation is high? Do you think it's patient confidentiality risks and safety, variable technology literacy and accessibility in the community? Basically, that not all communities really have the know-how to use or even to access technology. Do you think it's a lack of professional learning and training for pharmacists in digital health? Do you think it's a lack of evaluation mechanisms and monitoring of digital services? Do you think that there's, we don't have the tools, mechanism to evaluate this digital health? And do you think that it's a lack of interoperability of systems, which means that, do you think the systems are fragmented and there are no collaborations, with other systems? So please let us know which challenges you think there are to implementing digital health in pharmaceutical care services. So kindly just choose the 3 major ones, and then we will submit your answers. And then we will really see what we all think at the end. Okay, so as you can also see on your screens, those are the responses. I think coming up first is the lack of regulatory models, policies, and strategies. That comes in at 65%, and then followed closely by 56%. Economical and financial concerns comes in second, followed by variable technology, literacy, and accessibility in the community. Yeah, so those are the 3. I'll just share the 3, but I think you guys can all see what challenges that are there. But I think the whole purpose of this conversation is really to tackle all these challenges and to ensure that the future really is innovation, is digital, as we have learned in theme 1. So thank you so much for engaging, everybody, and please make use of the chat box that we can hear your voice, and also tell us of your stories of digital health in your countries. So I'll now hand over to Prosper to take us through theme 2. Prosper, you're welcome. Prosper, if you can hear me.
Sorry, I was muted. Now we are going to the second panel of discussion about substandard and falsified medicine, which is a challenge for our continent. To talk about it, we will start by our first speaker, Vigil Edward Prashun, who is member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Head of Intelligence of Ghana Food and Drug Administration. Vigil Edward, you have the floor, my brother.
Thank you, Prosper, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all participants. My name is Vigil Edward Prashun, rightly said. I head the Intelligence Department of the Food and Drug Authority in Ghana. I am a member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, and I've been in regulation for almost about 20 years. Next slide. Right. The Food and Drugs Authority is a governmental agency mandated to regulate food and drugs in Ghana. This agency was first set up in 1992 by law, but started its operations in 1997. The object of the authority is to provide and enforce standards for sale of drugs, food, that's cosmetics, household chemicals, and medical devices in country. Currently, the Food and Drugs Authority is one of the few NMRAs with WHO Global Benchmarking Maturity Level 3 in Africa. We have an ISO IEC 17025 accredited laboratory with the largest scope of tests under one roof in Africa. Next. Here are some of our activities when it comes to pre- and post-market surveillance activities. We have in place a pharmacovigilance system rated as WHO Maturity Level 4. we employ what we call the risk-based sampling and testing of pharmaceutical products. We handle consumer complaints and undertake investigations. We control import and export of pharmaceutical products. And we supervise the safe disposal of unwholesome or unwanted pharmaceutical products so as not to get into wrong hands. We engage the public on the need to stay away from substandard and falsified medical products. We have in place an interagency committee for collaboration on substandard and medical products. These members are coming from different governmental agencies, from the security, judiciary, the regulatory, and the healthcare providers. Next. Here are some of the devices we use to combat substandard and falsified medicine as a country. We use the TrueScan, which this is a non-destructive point and shoot sampling device, which facilitates rapid verification of a broad range of chemical compounds through sealed packaging to minimize the risk of contamination and exposure. Under QA/QC, this device is also used to identify raw materials and also the sizing of materials for the manufacture of APIs. It's also used in the test or in the inspection of finished products. And brand security identification is used to identify substandard and falsified medicines. Next. We also employ the use of the mini lab system. The mini lab basically has 4 steps of testing for substandard and falsified medicine. The first is the physical examination scheme of dosage forms and associated packaging materials for an early rejection of the more crudely presented substandard and falsified medicine. The second step involves a quick check on the film and total weight, which serves as an early indicator for the detection of false information related to the drug content. The third is a simple disintegration test on tablets and capsules in order to verify label claims or enteric coating and other modified release systems. And lastly, which is the chemical, we use the thin layer chromatography as a chemical test for a rapid verification of label claims regarding drug identity and content. Next. Currently, we're using the Moderators tool, that's the medicines risk surveillance tool, for our post-marketing surveillance activities. This is the tool that facilitates the planning, design, and development of sampling protocols for a risk-based post-market surveillance. The tool helps evaluate risks associated with medicines, geographic locations, and supply and distributing chains. By calculating composite risk scores, the tool helps determine what medicines to sample, how many of the medicines to be sampled, where to sample from, and all other risks associated with the sampling. This tool is online, and also the results and protocols can be uploaded. This gives us that opportunity to share our substandard medicine results with the WHO Rapid Alert System. Next. Yes, currently we're trying to implement traceability, that's track and trace. This will enable us to identify and trace the history, distribution, location, and the use of pharmaceutical products. Ghana has put together a five-year traceability strategy. With support of government, there is a traceability secretariat at the ministry to supervise this implementation. Why traceability? This to prevent substandard and falsified pharmaceutical products from entering the supply chain, and also give government full control over its supply chain system. It will help the regulator to better handle product recalls, and lastly, to ensure patient safety. We as a country have identified 5 objectives. The first one being a functional governance framework that is suitable and accountable for implementation and evaluation of the traceability strategy. The second is to enhance regulatory framework for verification and traceability of pharmaceutical products. The third is to have an efficient public and private sector supply chain systems using standardized identification, capture, and reporting of high-quality supply chain data. The fourth is to ICT leverage to ensure effective management of health commodities through identifying, capturing, sharing, and effectively using data. And lastly, to have an appropriate skill mix of healthcare professionals empowered with the necessary information and technology to provide quality health services. Next. Yeah, these are all part of the pharmaceutical traceability strategy, which eventually will be having the 2D matrix as part of our labeling, and as we try to amend the regulation. Next. Yeah. Yeah, our barriers. Being a lower middle income country, our major barrier is finance. And we normally depend on donors and our internally generated funds to push through some of these initiatives. The second is the infrastructure, technology and equipment. And then the political will, like my colleagues said earlier, we are lucky to have a vice president who is very interested in the digital space and has been pushing strongly for us to have these projects in place. And the last is stakeholder buy-in. Currently, the concern for most of our stakeholders is the cost implication, which they think will make their business quite expensive, and for that matter, their end product also expensive. But we are still dialoguing with them, and we believe that when we make headway, this will be something of the past. Next. Enablers and drivers. That we have the availability of technology for prevention and detection response when it comes to substandard and falsified medicines, stakeholder acceptance, that's user facilities and patients. Then we have data on approved medicines as well as previously identified substandard and falsified medicines. Next. Yeah, as a country, here are some of the challenges we have as when it comes to the fight against substandard and falsified medicines. We have trade liberalization policy, which gives no limit to the number of brands or number of dealers in a particular pharmaceutical area. We have currently, our legislation does not support the confiscation of proceeds from counterfeiting. Hence, it's become a very lucrative area for traffickers. Then the second one is distribution. We have a lot of door-to-door distribution, social media sales of pharmaceutical products, as well as internet sales. We have the issue of poor handling, transportation, storage, legitimate consignments, especially the coaching, the sourcing of products from unauthorized level by government and private sector health facilities, multi-sourcing, para importation of pharmaceuticals. Then the existence of illicit market. There's a ready market for these substandard and falsified medicines in the West Africa sub-region, which means the fight against it very, very difficult. Next. We have issues of porous barriers with our neighboring countries where regulation is quite low, and then the non-compliance to GMP of most of these pharmaceutical products. Thank you.
Redwan,
okay.
How do you fight against substandard and falsified medicine? How do you track them there in your country who is doing well in industry? Hello?
Hello.
Redwan?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I've given the floor to Redwan.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. We have lost Redwan. Then I will give.
Prosper, if we can go to the next speaker until I think Redwan is facing some technical issues. If we can go to the next speaker and then we'll get back to Algeria.
Okay. I will give the floor to Daphne Mokadi Fafudi of South Africa.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, good morning to everyone who's attending the conference. I just want to see the slides from the beginning. Okay. Thank you. In terms of South Africa, I work for the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, which is the regulator of medicines and medical devices in South Africa. And when it comes to the management of substandard and falsified medicines through this digital age, I would like to just mention that, yes, we are living in the age of 4IR, where machine learning and and artificial intelligence are something that we cannot ignore, but need to make sure that we are aligned with. So, and we acknowledge that digital health technologies are beneficial in improving access, in improving also in cost reduction and ensuring that they are high quality products, also reduce the inefficiencies and also personalized treatment care of patients being optimized. So those are some of the benefits that we need to take into account when it comes to the fourth industrial revolution, and where patients and consumers are able to also manage their own health. They are also able to track their wellness and the activities that are associated with. So, and we know that with the smartphones, you can now also look after yourself better and track and also save some of the information and improve your health, and also access information easier than previously. And in terms of pharmaceutical chain, as we know that digital health is a very, very broad topic. It goes even to research, development, manufacturing and distribution, and patient care. So here we see blockchain solutions being able to assist when it comes to issues of security, authenticating products, and traceability of the products. So therefore, throughout the pharma supply chain, we need to ensure that we also adapt to the needs and changes that are happening in the world. And we know that in Africa, usually we are, in terms of development, it becomes lower than in the first world countries. So if we can go on to the next slide, what I want to say is that fortunately, in terms of the Medicines and Related Substances Act and the Pharmacy Act, our pharmacists are always covered in terms of the legal frameworks where medicines are involved. So I will speak about prevention, detection, and response to the substandard and falsified medical products or medicines. So we need to ensure that there is a comprehensive legal framework, and fortunately, at the moment, I can say that we do have that. And although, of course, we need to be agile towards the demands of IR. And education and awareness is one key area that we cannot lag behind. And we also need to ensure that multi-stakeholder engagement and enforcement activities are aligned, and also the supply chain integrity has to be rigorous in such a way that these platforms that are enabling healthcare digitally also are in compliance, and there is that coordination. Next slide, please. So in terms of the Medicines and Related Substances Act and the regulations, we do make provision. There are several provisions in terms of how we make sure that the medicines that are in the market are of quality, safety, and efficacy, because they must be registered, and they must also, if they are not registered, they must be authorized by SAPRA, who is the regulator in South Africa. So, and if you look at the Medicines Act, the whole act makes provision for how to acquire those. So in terms of my area of speciality, similar to my colleague from Ghana, so I manage control of imports and then market surveillance throughout the supply chain, where we also do sampling and testing of products to ensure that they still meet the requirements of quality, safety, and efficacy, and also control of advertising, and also in terms of the promotional material as well, and in prevention, detection, and response to products that do not meet the standards. In terms of advertising, our regulations, we've got schedules in terms of medicines. The higher the schedule, the higher the risk. So the medicines which are in Schedule Not and Schedule 1 can be advertised to the public. So, and those medicines that are from Schedule 2 and above may only be advertised to the healthcare professionals. Next slide. Thank you. So, and in terms of how we control advertising, because if you look at the digital space as well, because that's where, because when we speak about advertising, this the definition of advertising in our law also include sale of those substances. So now when it comes to scheduled substances, we are saying that no person shall advertise any medicine or scheduled substances unless they comply with prescribed requirement. And the law prohibits the sale of medicines and devices which do not comply with prescribed requirements. And also in terms of publications, distribution of information, we do prohibit publication of false information. And because our regulation does, the prescription is in the regulations which outlines what are the requirements. Next slide. And we know that with COVID, we have seen quite a number of platforms coming in on a cyber platform where they are advertising products with false information. And this fraudulent website, we know that they are being set up, and these are often sophisticated networks. So they are illegal medicines that are sold on the website because they use open source that is available for promotion of digital products. And also we find that when it comes to technology, it is often a bit tricky to identify the domains as well where these are advertised or sold at. And therefore, as regulators, we are not necessarily specialists when it comes to technology, to website technologies, and also taking down those sites. So, and you find that there are genuine sites of pharmaceutical establishments which are licensed and registered, but there will be replications of those sites using some spoof domains. Next slide. So these are some of the challenges whereby in terms of a sufficient legislative framework, you find that some laws, because remember, when it comes to digital platforms, often you find that this does not necessarily originate from your country. It can be a sale from anywhere in the world because of globalization. So now in terms of detecting these domains and to know who's sitting behind that computer selling, it becomes a little bit difficult. And because every country has got their own regulatory framework, so we don't necessarily have interconnected legislative framework. So, and some of the legislations are outdated when you look at the digital age. And also when you look at the limitation of resources, they influence the enforcement, whereby you end up having a weak enforcement due to shortage of manpower, due to shortage of equipment and intelligence on dealing with this. Limitation of awareness of hazards on counterfeits. Our borders can be very porous, and our ports in terms of control, and also in terms of national policies, we know that there are some challenges, and also the issues of corruption come in. Then we know of the large informal economies because of people are not, in terms of employment, there are challenges in terms of employment. Therefore, we see a lot of large informal economies. Next slide. So what are we doing on our side? It's ongoing, ensuring that our legislation in terms of the pharmaceutical supply chain aligns with the needed requirements. We have got pharmaceutical task group. As I indicated, that pharmacists are always part of the decisions that the regulator needs to consider. And there are various consultations and various platforms such as pharmaceutical task group, industry technical groups. And we also, in terms of control of imports, we are represented at the ports of entry. We've got officials that are stationed there, and we do more inspection activities. And we also have pharmaceutical crime forums where brand holders, law enforcement agencies, the Department of Trade and Industry, pharmaceutical associations, consumer protection, statutory bodies, Interpol, local and regional. This kind of collaborations are the ones that are helping us to work together in ensuring that should we detect this, we remove them and we collaborate in successful prosecutions. We also participate in the UNODC platforms, United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, And then also because the US is quite advanced in terms of this, we are also working with them on trying to see how we can fight digital pharmaceutical crime. And also we are collaborating with, and we also do operations with law enforcement agencies locally, and we're also working with other regional authorities. In terms of communication, we do quite a number of media awareness and also webinars in terms of this. And what we are also considering is harsh penalties, fines on non-compliance, so that we can fight better this problem. Next slide. Okay, so yeah, again, the collaboration is very, very important because it helps with gathering and sharing of information, especially because often of those that we have been working on, there is transnational crime involvement. So they are not necessarily a local problem. However, it's of a transnational, because these are digital platforms that are selling. And then when you look at the trends, the threats, and the lead, it's transnational. So, and the characteristics as well. So, because you need to identify the source, you need to identify the destination, and you also need to identify which countries are transit countries that are being used because of weaker enforcement. And also, there are countries that are having intelligence when it comes to a computer or internet sales of pharmaceutical products. So in terms of doing our assessments, assessing the threats, the vulnerabilities, and what needs to be done, we note that it is the problem is not just in Africa, but it's a global challenge that require a global collaboration and unity. Next slide, please. Okay, you can go on to the next slide. This one was just showing that as South Africa, we are a member of the G7, and in terms of collaboration, we just need to ensure that we collaborate at a regional level better to just make sure that as we are learning. Next slide. This is just some of our collaborators from the SADC region, and also some of the US colleagues who are helping us fight the cyber crimes. So the benefits of collaboration and cooperation within the stakeholders locally and nationally, we are improving on our investigative techniques, strengthening the online enforcement, and how to get prosecutors, because the prosecutors often, if they don't understand what is it at stake, that health, that medicines have got a very high impact in terms of life. So if you don't get the prosecutors from the onset, it becomes difficult to get a successful prosecution. So we're strengthening those relations, and then also the requirements for what are the requirements for successful prosecution, learning from their side, and also looking more into resources that will be dedicated to monitor the internet fraud in promoting public health, and also ensure that we educate the public more and more on how important it is to source healthcare products from pharmaceutical establishment, because that supply chain already, the integrity has been tested and it's ongoing monitored. So, and also sharing the lessons that as partners, as the countries, what have we learned and what can we prevent and what can we do to promote the digital health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daphne. Thank you very much. Very instructive presentation. We will come back to Redwan We lost him for a few minutes. He's there.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
Sorry, I got some technical issue and I'm back.
You are there.
Thank you. So yeah, let's start by the first question. I think in Algeria, like we have, when we talk about the medicine counterfeit, you know, it has a great impact to raise concern as a global problem and has become widespread in recent years. Thought falsified and counterfeit medicines affect all the countries. The problem is more visible in the countries where the procedure of manufacturing, distribution, supply, and sale management are less monitored. So many factors are involved in this spread, such as the lack of formal supply chain, lack of connections among the actors of the supply, weak monitoring, law enforcement, etc. So to combat against counterfeit and falsified medicines, various areas need to be addressed, like securing medical products and their packaging, ensuring traceability and integrity of the medicine supply chain, tracking the movement of the drug over the supply, enhanced regularity procedure. So an innovative way to manage all that is through the application of digital health solutions that provide detection, reporting, and action against substandard and falsified medicines and devices. An example of that is mobile authentication services, tracking and tracing solutions, and the pill image recognition. Sadly, in Algeria, none of these solutions is put in place just yet, other than maybe social media screening with the sole purpose of surveillance of what is going on, and if there are any online activities to sell different medications out of the legal frame. And when it comes to this topic, for the counterfeit medicines, so we do have strong institutions who are tackling this point, but I'm talking about the digital point of view, where there is a lack of digital solutions to track, for instance, this example. Next slide, please. So in terms of barrier and challenges, I would say that once again, as I said in the previous panel, the main barrier is the lack of a strategy for digital health. I think we are missing something from the government perspective to have these national initiatives. So, and again, the infrastructure, the logistics, and the ability personnel to manage and utilize these tools. Another issue, again, is the legal framework. I think policy is very important. The regulation, the ground is very important to utilize these tools in order to ensure traceability and integrity of the medicines, tracking the movement of drug over the supply chain, and thus enhancing regulatory procedure. Next, please. So I think in terms of drivers, again, education is education and training is one of the key pillars. So identifying the existing aspects of the issue and the future potential manifestation, preparing logistically and financially to meet the needs of proper integrated digital health interventions and approaches to fight the falsified medicines, and of course, mobilizing qualified, habilitated, and sufficient human resource. And with that, I give the floor to Mr. the President. Over to you, Prosper.
Thank you, Redouane. Thank you very much. Thank you for what your country is doing for Africa. And I just want to remind people that you are the first country where there is a ministry of industry, pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great opportunity that we have this Ministry of Pharmaceutical Industry. It's a newcomer in the landscape of the pharmaceutical industry. But there is a great achievements, but we have a lot to do, and hopefully this institution will continue being on the country And why not? It can be like a model that can the rest of the countries follow, mainly in our continent.
Okay, we are already at the end of our discussion, but I wanted to share with you some lessons learned and some ideas. I think the first, we agreed all that we need a political will. It is important. We need a legal framework, a regulatory and legal framework. We need also to improve digital in our continent. Education is a priority. And with FIP, we have begun a program with 5 universities on detection and prevention of substandard and falsified medicines. Collaboration is important within the region. And what we have seen with Ghana, with South Africa, talking about porosity of the borders. This can be solved only by harmonization of the legal framework in the region, but also collaborating to fight against this crime. I think that it is not just a local challenge. It is not a regional challenge. It's a global one. It should be highlighted at a high level. I think that FIP can do that, to highlight it at the high level, to become a priority for the United Nations to fight against this kind of substandard and falsified medicine. But I think also that we need to make medicine affordable for the population. We need health insurance. We need to go to universal health coverage. This is my conclusion. Thank you very much. But before handing over or concluding finally, do you have one word, you, Daphne, Redwan, and Edward? A quick.
Thank you,
I think
Chair.
Prosper, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, Daphne.
Okay, thank you very much. I think as this kind of platforms should not just be the platforms where we just share and not carry over the responsibilities that that we need to be taking forward. I agree with you, Chair, on how you have summarized it. And if regionally we can collaborate and see where are the strengths and what can we do in order to align and in ensuring that we can tackle this matter in such a way that it will benefit Africa and not just certain pockets of our continent. So thank you very much for this invite, and I look forward to working together with the colleagues.
Thank you, Redwan.
Yeah, first, I think I would like to thank FIP for this great opportunity. Across the last years, a lot of initiatives coming, and I would like to thank all the team FIP behind it. I think, again, I echo what have been said by you, by the colleague, is we need really to come up together with a plan as a region, as a pharmaceutical, African forum, and on the top of those discussions, those sharing experiences, those learnings, we need absolutely to come up with a framework that can help us in order, to advocate within the governments in our countries, and play a key role for digitalization for the pharmaceutical care.
Okay, before giving the floor to Edward, I would like you all panelists to open your camera. Okay, Edward.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank FIP for the opportunity to come and share what we experience in Ghana with other colleagues from other countries. I think my colleagues have already mentioned that collaboration is key. when it comes to fight against substandard and falsified medicines. It's not limited to one country alone. When we come to West Africa sub-region, I mean, we share a lot of information about our sister country, Nigeria. We do that also with South Africa, especially when it comes to the fight against benyliving codeine, which is a banned product in Ghana. We've had issues of people trying to bring it from South Africa a lot, and we've engaged our sister agency in South Africa. They've been helping us to stop this. Same with Nigeria, Togo, and Burkina Faso. So collaboration is key, and as well as public education, we need to create awareness amongst our citizenry against the use of substandard and falsified medicines. How do they come by this? By buying pharmaceuticals from social media, by buying from unauthorized sources, and also by just, trying to use prescriptions of others which have not been prescribed to them. So I think the key is collaboration and public education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Now, Esther, can you summarize us what we have heard and learned today before going to the next slide? But before going, and I will ask also Farah, do we have questions in the Q&A box? First, Esther, for the summary.
Okay, thank you so much, Prosper. Thank you so much, panelists and speakers, for all the insights, and thank you everyone for attending. I think it's been a really great session, and I think what stood out in theme one are really the ongoing initiatives and the various apps that our clients have, and especially in Ghana, that has a pharmacy platform that's regulated by the Pharmacy Council. I think for me that really stood out very, very well. And when we look at the barriers and challenges, and Prosper, you had already mentioned this, that the need really for legal and regulatory bodies to come in and regulate this space, I think would really help to advance the implementation and the adoption of digital health in our pharmaceutical care services. Something also that really stood out for me were the enablers and the drivers that are currently in place that drive digital health in pharmaceutical care services. And I think collaboration is key, and I cannot even belabor it, and I cannot echo it enough, because all of us are really talking about collaboration, not only within our countries, but even within regions, within FIP. I think that's the only way that we'll be able to really make digital health a reality for our pharmaceutical care services. It was really also theme 2 was also very insightful for me. And I think just getting a glimpse of all the tools and all the screenings that are currently in place to fight substandard and falsified medicines. I think that's a really huge step that Africa is taking to really protect the public health and the safety of our mothers, of our children, and of the clients that we see on a day-to-day basis. And I think the barriers here arise again and again, that there is really a need for regulation, and there's a need for the national government to come and really embrace digital health towards the fight of substandard and falsified medicine. There's also a need for creation of awareness among the population to really increase the know-how and the technical skills to be able to familiarize ourselves with these tools to fight falsified and substandard medicine, and then also really just to strengthen our borders. So what I'm hearing really is that our pharmacy organizations must really work with our national governments to enable our national governments to really support the closure of our borders, or rather to reduce the porosity of our borders, but also to enable to create a conducive environment environment. And here we're talking economically, we're talking financially, we're talking legally, because that's the only way that we'll be able to really go into this space and even to curb the hacking and all these other things that can go wrong when we go into the digital space. But I think overall, the future for Africa and the future, I think, for the world is innovation, is digitization for healthcare. And I'd like to really thank our panelists. I'd like to thank our speakers for all the insights that have been given. And I think going forward, I really look forward to a region that's going to embrace pharmaceutical, embrace digital health for pharmaceutical care services. Over to you, Prosper, and thank you so much. Maybe to Farah for any questions before we say goodbye.
Thank you, Esther, and thank you, Prosper. We don't have any question in the Q&A box. I think our panelists and speakers addressed all the questions. So thank you again. I think we can move forward to the closing, Prosper.
Yes, the closing is some few information that for the future events. This year, FIP Pharmacy Practice Research Special Interest Group Summer meeting will be held in person on the 4th and 5th July 2022 in Utrecht University of Applied Science, Utrecht in Netherlands. All PhD students and their supervisor, researcher, academics, professionals, organizations, and practitioners involved in research are welcome to join this meeting to build a global pharmacy network, present their research by submitting an abstract, and increase pharmacy practice contribution to global health. The program will offer interactive workshops and keynote session, network event, and interactive closing panel discussion. Book your place now, register before 30 June. At the end, we are excited to invite you at the 80th FIP World Congress of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Science in Seville, Spain. The Congress will take place from the 18th and 22 September 2022. Under the theme, Pharmacy United in the Recovery of Healthcare. Registration and abstract submission are already open. For more information, check our website, seville2022.fip.org, also shown on the slide. You have it there. Okay, we are the next, many events are organized. Just go through events.fip.org. You will see all those information. Uniting pharmacy around the globe. This is our objective. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for attending our meeting. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you all. God bless you and see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prosper. I'd like to also just echo your thank you. And I'd like to also thank the FIP staff that are supporting us. So on the background, I mean, everybody, the people who make this happen in the background. So thank you so much, Christopher. Thank you, Farah. Thank you, Mila. Thank you, Karima, for taking the notes. So at this point in time, thank you all for also opening your cameras. We like to say goodbye as we see each other. So as we end, please just open your videos and wave a goodbye. Please say a goodbye to all of us and wish us a good day, a good morning, a good evening, a good night, depending on where you are. So thank you so much and have a good day, I guess. But bye-bye. Thank you for coming. Yeah. So we can officially close.
Assalama.
Thank you.
Thank you.